Hello and good morning, you amazingly mindful people. My name is Ryan G, and welcome to another episode of Once in a While. Now, I know that it has been a while, and this period of time has really kind of given me an idea. It's inspired me to come back, make another episode, because I've been trying to take some time to figure out what exactly I'm trying to do with myself. So to get right into it, today I wanted to talk about the process of kind of creating your own path, setting your own goals, and being happy with them. Now, disclaimer, I am not a life coach, nor do I want to advertise myself to be a life coach. But basically, this is my perspective, kind of my thoughts and opinions about what it takes to kind of create a long-term goal and to achieve that and to be satisfied with it. Now, unfortunately, with this type of stuff, it's not an easy fix. There is no person on Instagram that's going to sell you a $10 life program that works. A lot of it is internal. A lot of it is having a conversation with yourself and having to try to make these decisions. And I'm hoping with this episode, it kind of maybe presents some new ideas to you and maybe gets the ball rolling a little bit. But I don't want it to seem like I have my stuff together and I'm this perfect person, because I'm not. I am absolutely not, and my shit's kind of all over the place. But I think it's important to kind of at least have a process in mind and at least trying to be working yourself through it, because some of this stuff really isn't that easy. And it takes a lot of introspective learning and a lot of just like thinking about yourself personally. Now, creating goals for yourself, trying to think about the future, both short-term and long-term, can be a really anxious process. And I know, like, if you ask me what I'm doing more than 6 months in advance, I freak out because I'm like, I don't know. I'm just kind of coasting right now. I'm just still trying to find my way. And then to make it worse, usually the types of questions I get at like family gatherings or parties or stuff like that is kind of, where are you? What are you doing? Where are you going to go? How are you going to get there? And it's like a lot of, they're asking me how my life's going. They want to know what direction it's going in. And sometimes that can be really freaky, because sometimes they ask you questions that you haven't asked yourself. And I think the reason it causes anxiety is because a lot of these questions, I don't know. I don't know. But I think it's important that these questions are asked, because then you start to ask them to yourself. Now, I think it's important during this process that you try to look at it in a very healthy way, not a frightful way, but kind of realizing that there are things that are going to happen. I think the phrase, I don't know, is so accurate, because we're talking about the future here. I mean, sometimes sometimes the distant future that you're talking about, and you just don't know. I can't predict the future. I don't think you can predict the future. If you can, let me know. Let me know what I'm going to be up to in 5 years. And I think this leads to the point that we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves, because we do not know what the future holds. Even though I know a lot of people, myself included, I try to hold myself onto these strict guidelines that this is where I'm going and this is how I'm going to get there. And it kind of drives me nuts sometimes, because you can't live on this railed, very strict set of goals, because you're going to drive yourself nuts. You got to let yourself live. And I think it's finding a balance between not having any goals and having too many goals. And it's trying to find somewhere in the middle where you can kind of, where it's not stressful, it's not anxious, where you're kind of comfortable where you're at and where you're going. And I think another important thing to think about is what kind of goals we're setting for ourselves. Are they just way up there? Are they almost obtainable from where we're at now? Because that can also cause some anxiety as well. It can be really intimidating to think about where you want to go and all the steps you have to get there, and you start freaking out and it all snowballs. And I think it's important to have that long-term goal and that short-term goal. And the process of making a goal, I think, should be more exciting than anxious, if anything else, because I think more people should be excited if they want change in their life, if they want to accomplish something, that they can start to get the ball rolling on that. And that would be more, hopefully I'm going to get to this goal that I set for myself, as opposed to freaking out about all the steps that you have to do to get to that goal. And I am far from being an expert in human psychology, and I know everyone operates differently. For me personally, I think the most intimidating thing about creating goals and trying to achieve them is that it's going to take some sort of change. It's going to take a lot of work. I think change is the hardest thing for people to accomplish, because people get so comfortable in their routines, they get comfortable in what they know, that as soon as something new kind of comes along, or if they present something new to themselves, it can be kind of scary, because then that means that you have to change, and people, I think, just biologically don't like change. Now, these goals might require just a little bit of change. It might require a lot of change. It kind of depends on the scale and scope of what you're trying to do. Now, trying to change yourself, easier said than done, because it's it could be a long, difficult process. And I think it's important to acknowledge that that process might be there and to almost embrace it. Now, failure is something that a lot of people worry about. When you're setting goals, you're afraid you might fall short. And I think it's important to realize that you could put 100% into something and still fall short. Now, these failures or shortcomings, when you don't get to the goal that you set for yourself, it can really kind of hurt your self-value, how you see yourself. You might see yourself more as like a failure, more incompetent, whatever it may be. But just realize that these moments of coming short, they're moments of growth. You have an opportunity to kind of further develop yourself as a person, to go, okay, I messed up here. And to look back and to go, okay, where did I mess up? Where did I go wrong? And you kind of have that conversation with yourself and you see, okay, what you did right, what you did wrong. And so next time you try to either accomplish that same goal or maybe a different goal, you have maybe a better idea in your head of how to go about it and how to be more successful at it. And along with this, I think another important aspect of kind of calming that anxiety down and kind of developing, trying to find and accomplish your goals, is having a conversation with yourself. Now, there are a lot of important questions. Everyone's questions could be different. We're all unique individuals. We come from different environments, different backgrounds, different families. And for me personally, the questions I ask myself is, what makes me happy? Where do I want to go? How can I obtain the things that I want? And what kind of goals should I set for myself? Now, I don't want to give you the idea that I have the answers to all these questions, because I don't. I don't have the answers to any of them. Well, I mean, I know it makes me happy. I like doing this. I like talking to you guys and various other things, but it's kind of a balance of those questions, and asking yourself those questions is the important part, because you might never find the answer. Because, I mean, I asked myself 4 questions there. I kind of know the answer to one of them, and it's the easiest one, which is like, what makes me happy? And even then, sometimes I still don't know the answer to that question. And I think it's important to realize that you don't always need an answer to those questions. I think the more important process is that you're looking for the answer. You're asking yourself these questions. You go, wait, hold on a minute. Let's think about this, because I don't know. And I don't want to lecture you what kind of questions you have to be asking yourself. Like I said, we're all different. We might be asking ourselves different questions depending on where we're at, where we're trying to go. And like anything else I do on this channel, it's a discussion. I don't want to tell you how to think. I want to present the way that I think, kind of my views. And I want to hear your feedback. If the way you go about goals is different, I'd love to hear. But after you start asking yourself these questions and you start trying to figure out, okay, I'm here, where do I want to go? You just have to start finding goals. Now, I think in this process, now I'm going to be very vague. I'm not going to use specific goals, because everyone will probably have very different goals. But I think it's important, if you have a long-term goal, to have short-term goals kind of building up to that. Because like anything else, it takes work, it takes time. You're not going to go to the gym and bench 200, 300 pounds your first day. It takes going to the gym regularly and working on your body. And it's kind of the same way with developing a goal and to obtaining that goal. It's not like it's going to happen overnight. It's not like you're going to wake up tomorrow and your goal is like, oh, okay, goal accomplished. And I think it's important to realize that it will take time. It will take the change that we were talking about earlier. It will take work. And instead of having this big old goal with no real steps to get there, I think it's important to kind of develop a plan where you have, okay, this is where I want to be maybe in a few months. Okay, but how do you want to be tomorrow? What kind of short-term goals are you setting for yourself? Because these long-term goals can be really intimidating, where you have these long-term goals that seem so unobtainable, and it seems like just something that you can't do, and it kind of inspires you to give up, which is definitely not something that we want to do. And I think kind of being on social media, being on the internet, I'm not really going to go into the subject much, but kind of comparing yourself to others. When you see these overnight success stories on Instagram, you usually look a little deeper, and they're usually not overnight success like they might try to advertise that it is. But I think kind of comparing ourselves to where we're at now, where we want to be, and then to these people that might be at a level that we want to get to. And I think you should look at that as inspiration. Oh, okay, what is, maybe you want to look to the other person for inspiration. Maybe not. There's really no right or wrong answer, because it varies person to person. Now, in today's day and age with social media and the internet, now I want to be careful. I don't want to get into this subject too heavy, but kind of the self-comparison thing kind of comes into play. And you see these people on Instagram, on Facebook, that maybe have like some crazy overnight success story. And I mean, if you look a little more into it, usually it's not that way, but just on the surface level, it can be really hard to kind of look at yourself and you look at this person who maybe is in a place that you want to be, that you're not there yet. You can look to this person for inspiration if you want, or you can't. It really varies from person to person, but just that self-comparison can be a really hard thing to get over. And to see these people kind of maybe accomplishing similar goals or doing something that you had that you wanted to do with yourself. And it can be tough and it can be really intimidating when you see these people, and it can start to really affect your self-worth and how you view yourself, because you might seem to view yourself as like as a failure or lesser than this person that you're seeing pictures of online. And I'm already getting into the whole social media thing, and so I want to leave that for another episode. But I think it's important to realize that we are all in different spots. We are all unique. If you have a goal that someone else has already accomplished, that shouldn't be deterring you from obtaining that goal. It can be hard, especially when you look at that person. It starts to affect your self-worth, but you don't get there without trying. If you're not doing things to actively accomplish your goal, then you're not going to get it. Something I like to tell myself is that things don't happen until you do them. Your goal isn't going to come and fall in your lap. It's not like I said, you're not going to wake up tomorrow or in a couple of days and you go, oh, cool, my goal's accomplished. I don't have to do anything, because it takes change and it takes work. And it's important to embrace that process. And it could be tough, easier said than done, because it's something that I'm actively working on, which is part of the reason where there hasn't been a video in a long time, part of the reason why I'm actually talking about this subject. Because the thing is that we're all people, we're all just trying to find our path and find our way and kind of get our stuff together. Some people already have. Good for you. I wish I was there, but we're working on it. That's part of this whole conversation, is you want to ask yourself these questions because you want to get to a place, you want to be better tomorrow than you were today. But kind of going along with finding a goal, it's important to be happy with it. Now, this varies from person to person, because once you maybe have this goal, you might be stressing yourself out trying to obtain it, and then that happiness goes away. I think it's important to find a balance between obtaining your goal, being happy. People have different thresholds for both. So there is no right answer, and that's another question, another conversation you're going to have with yourself. But I think it's important to embrace that there will be change and work involved, and to kind of be more excited about it than anxious about trying to accomplish a future goal, or even thinking about where you'll be in the future or where you want to be in the future. And it's a slow growth. These things don't happen overnight. It might not happen in a week, a month, a year. But as long as you're working towards it, it'll happen. You'll make it happen if you are determined enough. Now, given everything I've talked about so far as my personal views on it, I'm not a life coach. I haven't studied psychology. I don't know anything besides what I've experienced personally about developing goals. And if the way that you choose goals and the way that you obtain them and the way that you are satisfied with them, if they're completely different from mine, I would love to hear about it. I always love taking things from a new perspective and reading other people's thoughts. But like anything else I do, this is a conversation that does not and should not end with this video. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions about everything I've talked about today. But thank you for tuning in. I understand that my show is called Once in a While, but I'm hoping in the future to start getting a more regular upload schedule, because I do enjoy doing this. This is one of my goals right now, is to kind of produce more content, to have more conversations, to kind of force myself to think about things and to take a perspective on certain things. But thank you for watching. This has been Once in a While, and I will see you next time.